You have just released an announcement that you are about to initiate a COVID-19 vaccine program. Can you please talk about that?
It was very important for us as an immunotherapy company to understand how we could help and what we could do to add in this battle our own weapons. And we know that it's important for vaccine to have also a T-cell response in this fight against COVID-19, and that maybe the conventional approaches will not be sufficient for some of the patients. And that's why we discuss internally and use our knowledge and the technology we have in terms of epitopes and neoepitopes and how to optimize them. So we decided in March to launch this program, which is based on the MemoP technology. That's the same technology that we use for Tedopi, our anti-cancer vaccine that just posted positive step 1 phase 3 results. And we used all the knowledge, the database that we have and that was published also on the possible epitopes to be used for COVID-19. We optimized them using intelligence artificial in order to have a stronger binding, and then we are going to test it in vivo in mice first. If successful, we plan to launch a clinical trial by the end of the year. So it's, I would say, how to use the best of our technology, our knowledge in epitopes, in optimizing neoepitopes, in order to have a good T-cell response in this COVID-19 crisis and fight, I would say.
Well, what about, in general, your preparations for COVID-19, impact or effect on operations? So, how is it ongoing right now? What do you see?
Well, clearly, we had obviously a negative impact initially on the clinical trials that we are running. I mean, we have been moving forward the portfolio, going from a preclinical stage company to now 4 clinical stage products, and we were impacted. First of all, in the phase 3 Atalon trial that we were running, because we had a successful step 1, but unfortunately the step 2 had to be cancelled following the recommendation from the IDMC and the steering committee of the study, due to the fact that non-small cell lung cancer patients, which is the focus of this trial, are very much impacted by COVID-19, and there was a risk for the data integrity of the study, especially because the endpoint is overall survival. The other clinical trials that we were running, either directly or through our partners, had to be suspended also. So it had a negative impact, but it was important to think about the patients, make sure that the hospital and the clinician had the time to focus on COVID-19 patients. What we see now is that, especially for phase 1 trials, there might be more opening and a possibility to restart the trials in the next couple of months. So we are hopeful that all these operations will be restarted again, and we will be able to continue on the path that we were having since the beginning of this year.
You already talked a bit about it. So phase 3 Atalanta 1 trial, but could you please maybe talk a bit more about it, especially for those who may not be aware about this particular trial, because it was one of your largest trials. So
Sure.
Just what it is and what are the potential next steps?
Okay, so the Atalon trial is a phase 3 trial, which was done in 2 steps, as I mentioned. So step 1 was to analyze the 12-month survival of our product Tedopi, which is a combination of neoepitopes, which have been modified and optimized for a strong binding in order to get a strong T-cell response. And these epitopes, they come from 5 well-known tumor antigens, so it can be used in various indications. So the idea of the trial was to say, okay, are we going to achieve the step 1 results, which is having at least 40% of 12-month survival for the patients treated with Tedopi, and if positive, then we will be able to continue to step 2 and evaluate the survival compared to chemotherapy. It's a randomized trial, 2-to-1, 2 patients for Tedopi, 1 patient for chemotherapy, and we also announced that the chemotherapy arm in this step 1 reached a survival rate at 12 months of 36%. So it's a positive result for the Tedopi arm and for the product. It's the first clinically positive results for the company since its inception, so a couple of years ago. So it's obviously something very interesting for us. And it's very interesting for the patients because we are in an indication which is post-checkpoint failure in non-small cell lung cancer, where you have nothing registered for the moment. Chemotherapy, mainly docetaxel, is used. We know that the toxicity of chemotherapy can be quite high, so we think that with a very good tolerance and safety of our product TEDOP, if we add this efficacy data that we just published on the step 1 of this trial, we will have a positive benefit-risk ratio. So what are the next steps? Now we are going to gather all the data and have a final report for this step 1. We plan to engage with the agencies in the US and in Europe and have their feedback on these positive results in this indication where nothing is registered. We hope that what they will ask us will be confirmatory trial, and if not, at least a complementary trial that we will have to do. The good thing is that with these results in this indication, which is a huge market, because we are in the non-small cell lung market where you have the big pharma players around, either the ones who have already a checkpoint inhibitor registered or the one who want to be in this indication and have not a checkpoint inhibitor registered. So there might be some interest from these big pharma partners in finding new partnerships for us. So we hope that with the results and the feedback of the agencies, we will be able to get a partnership in the next months, or at least at the maximum next year in 2021. That's the objective. But first, we need to get the feedback from the agencies, and we expect also to be able to publish the full step 1 results in an upcoming international congress in the second semester of this year.
So how is the rest of your pipeline progressing? I know that you have rather diversified and very interesting pipeline with different technologies and trials in different stages. Can you just please give us a quick summary about that?
Sure. I mean, all the strategy and the business model from the company is to be a kind of R&D engine. So we are able to find innovative targets in immuno-oncology and in autoimmune disease. We have the abilities with our team to find the right antibody, to design the right antibodies, to bring them forward preclinically, with our own mice model, of course, but now we are more and more using 3D humanized samples and models to test our product and then to bring them to the clinic. The objective is to find the right partner to help us accelerate the development of these products at some point. That's the case with Boehringer Ingelheim, with whom we partnered a product that I'm going to talk about right now, and then in the autoimmune part with Servier. So the rest of the portfolio is diversified, de-risked, with different mechanism of action. We try also to differentiate ourselves, focusing on macrophages, for example, in the immuno-oncology space. So that's the product we have, which is targeting SIRP-alpha on the SIRP-alpha CD47 pathway. The product is called OSE 172, and this has been partnered with Boehringer Ingelheim. That's the same pathway that was recently highlighted by the buyout from Gilead of 47 for more than $4 billion US dollars. So it shows the interest of this specific pathway and the first clinical result that we have seen with our competitors. The product is currently in phase 1. As I said, it had to be suspended due to the COVID-19 crisis, but we are quite hopeful that it will be able to restart in the coming weeks, or maximum 1 to 2 months, in order to, first of all, finalize the dose escalation in immunotherapy, and in combination with the anti-PD-1 from Boehringer Ingelheim, and then to do an expansion phase, choosing some indication in the solid tumors, which is the strategy of the company and its partner for this product for the moment. Then, in terms of other immuno-oncology pipeline and project, we have a new platform called BQ, which is a bispecific platform with a backbone of our own anti-PD-1. So we have our own anti-PD-1. We use it as a backbone in order to have a good productivity and good yield in this bispecific platform. And then we plug what we think are the most interesting targets. The first one, which was disclosed, is IL-7. We know that there are some projects focusing on IL-2. We think that IL-7, that we know very well, could be interesting also in order to address the resistance to checkpoint inhibitors and focus on some specific patients, enabling T cell in order to be still alive, I would say, and avoid the exhaustion of T cells, for example. But we can plug other targets, and we have other co-stimulatory targets, other macrophages or myeloid cells targets that we can have on this backbone and on this platform, which is quite interesting. And we hope to be able to publish new preclinical results during the course of the year. That's for sure. In research, we focus on other myeloid targets because we think that this is a way to differentiate ourselves and not be only on T cells. And we know very well myeloid cells and macrophages from our inception and the fact that our researchers come from transplantation and graft. So we plan to issue and publish new results and preclinical results in the upcoming congresses on this. So that's for the immuno-oncology part. In terms of autoimmune disease, we have one product which is targeting IL-7 receptor. It's an antagonist of the IL-7 receptor, which is going to start phase 2 with our partner Servier. So Servier will be responsible for a phase 2 in Sjogren's syndrome, and we will be responsible for a phase 2 in ulcerative colitis. It's a contract which has been renegotiated recently, and Servier agreed that we will get 5 million milestone when they treat the first patient in their phase 2. So we hope that it will be during the course of this year, if COVID-19 is not delaying too much the start of such trials. And at the end of this phase 2, Servier will decide whether they want to exercise the option or not. And if they do, then we will get an additional 15 million milestone. We have another product which has a clinical stage status, which is called FR104. It's an antagonist of CD28. It's a very interesting target. You can develop it in the autoimmune indication, but also in graft. And we are now looking in order to launch a study in specific indication, because we think that we need additional clinical data in order to allow us to find the right partner for this product in the autoimmune part. We have some discussion also with a group of clinicians which are interested in a specific study in graft. So we hope that we will be able to announce this and to launch this in the coming months. In the autoimmune indications and I would say business units, we also have in our research new projects which make sure that we have a full pipeline ready to be launched. And when one of the products is going away with one of the partner, then we have additional new preclinical projects that can come and be announced and developed in the near future. So the company is well, I would say, organized in order to find these new targets and to continue on the strategy of providing a differentiated and innovative product for its future partners, and most likely big pharma companies.
Right, and really interesting. Now, a diversified and large R&D pipeline usually means lots of interesting news flow. So, how would you summarize what are the expected or upcoming milestones or key R&D developments, let's say, over the next couple of years?
Yes, we organize the portfolio and the clinical development to have more or less every 6 months a clinical milestone or clinical news flow results based on the various products and projects that we have. So we started with the positive step 1 results with Tedopi. We hope to have additional data in the pancreatic combination study that we have combining Tedopi and Opdivo by the end of this year at the maximum in the first quarter of 2021. As I mentioned, the phase 1 from the product partner with Boehringer Ingelheim, we expect to have in the first semester of 2021 the first results of this study, and then we will have the phase 2 results of the product which is partnered with Servier. So clearly, in the next 18 to 24 months, we should have regular updates and clinical results that will be published on our portfolio. As far as the preclinical portfolio is concerned, we know already that we have abstracts and poster that will be available in 2020 and in 2021 on the new targets I mentioned, in order to position ourselves as a clear leader in immunotherapy, in immuno-oncology and in autoimmune disease. And to finish with this, clearly we announced yesterday that we have been working on a vaccine program for COVID-19. We hope to have the preclinical results at the beginning of the second semester, and if positive, we should be able to start a clinical trial by the end of this year, taking advantage of the tolerance and safety that we know from the same technology based on neoepitopes and that we use for our product Tedopi, which is in phase 3.